Quick warning before you listen to this podcast, it contains some sensitive conversation, including discussions about suicide. If this is something that you do not want to listen to, please select one of our other awesome podcasts and listen to that instead. Thank you.
Are you serious?
So this is How to Kill an Hour. There's plenty of ways to kill some time out there. You're about to kill some time with us. Before I introduce myself formally, I want to remind you that you can go to www.howtokillanhour.com/podcast and you'll be able to check out our podcast on any device. So if you're listening on an Apple MacBook Pro, on a Windows computer, on a Google Pixel, on an iPhone, whatever, go to howtokillanhour.com/podcast and it will work. All podcasts as well, because sometimes I say podcasts, sometimes I say podcasts. So, hey, we made both of those links work too. So on today's show, I'd like to welcome Alex Manzi. Amongst many things, you are a motivational speaker, an author, and a social media guru, right? So I think we're going to cover loads of those things.
Yeah,
it's fair to call you a guru. When I said that, you looked at me like, meh, you know what you're doing when it comes to social media, don't you? Yeah, a couple of things, yeah. But first things first, Alex, how do you like to kill time?
Oh, mate, this is a very good question. And there's so many answers, but what I've realised very recently is taking long walks and reading my book.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
That's the one.
Reading your own book?
No. One day, proper book. Yeah. Even though I don't think I'd read it.
Yeah. Well, walking along, what are you doing? Just reading my book.
Yeah, not at the same time. Go for a long walk, then stop and read the book.
My next question was going to be, how do you not step in dog poo when you're walking
I walk along the canal?
Yeah.
Fall in.
Yeah. So you like to go for long walks?
Yeah, that's like a really recent, like last 3-4 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just needed the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go super deep straight away here.
Let's go. Deep dive.
So like, I just realized that life is very consuming. And I was very aware of this. And like, so basically the backstory to this is I went to Japan in March for a month, came back, and it's like great when you're away because you've got freedom of whatever you want to do. You've got like zero decisions to make other than making sure you get back to your hostel at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Do what you want with the day. Spent a month out there, best time ever. I came back and I was like, oh, damn, like podcast, freelance work, writing, booking guests, coaching work. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back. I don't know how I'm going to do it all. And I was really struggling to like get back into that process. And I was being like over analytical with myself and like just overthinking everything and trying to force things. And I took a decision a few weeks ago to just like, actually, let me just step away from everything for a week. Let me just take a step out of all of it. Like, I don't need to stress about work and money right now, freelance stuff. I don't need to record any podcasts. I've got some in the can. I don't need to be writing. I don't need to be posting on social media. I don't need to be getting on the phone for like coaching clients. Let me just take a week away from all of it. But most importantly, allow myself to have that time away from it. And don't like, this is so deep so early, sorry. And don't like bring on that guilt that we get. You know, it's like if you don't do anything for half a day, you're like, oh my God, I should be doing something. Like take that guilt out of it and just let myself enjoy the time I have. Luckily, it was the week where we had pretty good weather. So walks in the park and sitting and reading the book was the thing to do. And I was just like, do you know what? All in all, like everything I've been through in my life, that right there, that's living. That is living right there.
Yes.
Like, honestly, it's mad.
It's so underrated. Going for a walk, finding a nice environment to chill in, sitting down, maybe having a cup of tea or coffee, maybe not, and just spending some time just taking it in. Like that's. I mean, you're have had a lot more experience in kind of meditation and things to do. But for me, going for a walk, just walking for half an hour down a canal, maybe finding somewhere nice and chilling there for 10 minutes and walking back. That for me is probably some of the most peaceful. Yeah. Those are some of the most peaceful moments in my life at the moment.
And they're the moments, like I said, that is living. That is existing to its absolute core. Like that's what animals do. They just wander around all day, stop for a bit, walk around a bit more. That is like pure like living. But we don't allow ourselves that time. We make ourselves feel bad for thinking, oh, I've got loads of work to do. I'm going to go for a 45-minute walk. I can't do that. I've got all this work to do. You get like guilt. It's like FOMO, but it's not fear of missing out on social activities. It's fear of missing out on advancing in work. It's just like, why?
don't know, but I feel like we'll get closer to the answer to that, because one thing that I didn't mention at the start of this podcast is that you have your own podcast, the Dreamer's Disease podcast. I'd love you to explain to our listener what that's all about and how it came together, because I've listened to it, but I think you're the best person to describe it right now.
So the idea of the podcast is whether it's a interview of someone inspirational to hear their kind of story, their journey, what helps them get through their kind of day-to-day, their struggles, the ups and downs of life, how they kind of deal with it, or whether it's discussing an everyday topic, like the listener will hopefully take something that they can use and adapt for their life, for something positive, to make a positive change. That's the kind of whole purpose of the podcast. So it's split into two elements. There's the interviews, as I mentioned, and then there's the in focus sessions, which is where I will talk about one specific topic and give my kind of experience on it. So that might be dealing with burnout, that might be anxiety, it might be meditation, it might be, an array of things. So it's about helping people understand different things within, life and, whatever it is, and how to like just garner a kind of, I used to call it like a positive mindset, but I'm starting to understand it's something beyond that, which again, we won't dive straight into that because that's way too deep. And it's just about having that level of consciousness and freedom of thought, like as much as possible. And it's about trying to tap into how other people do it and hear their stories, but also just have a dope conversation with someone for an hour, to be honest.
Nice. And what's good about the Dreamer's Disease is I feel like specifically to you, what makes it different is that you're not the kind of person that says you're at the end of the journey. It's like a learning experience, and throughout the podcast and throughout experiencing your output, you're sharing your journey. So it's like, by following the Dreamer's Disease, we're kind of taking part of that journey and learning with you as you go along. Is that an intentional thing? Was that? I
think to start with, it wasn't, to be honest, and it's really interesting because I'm about 4 weeks out from releasing my 100th episode.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do so episode 50, I kind of did like my story, my journey. So episode 100, I'm going to do like my learnings. And I've been thinking about the kind of concepts that I want to talk about and the kind of things. And one of them was that I started the podcast for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but I started the podcast for me to learn, for me to continue my journey, to continue developing, and to come to a realization that there is no end. It is a continuous ongoing journey, but also like not to focus on the journey itself, because the journey only ever happens now in this present moment. It's not happening yesterday. It's not happening in 5 minutes. It's not happening tomorrow. It's happening now.
Yeah.
So it's about totally understanding that. And that's kind of like where I've got to, is like hearing everyone's story. You might see someone and you go, oh my God, I can't believe this person. Most recent interviews with a girl called Samantha Maria, YouTuber. She's got 2.5 million subscribers online, followers, whatever you want to call them. It's like, oh my God, she's got 2.5 million followers. But when you talk to her, she's like, oh yeah, when I used to just have like 1 million followers, like she's like really like, it's not even a thing to her, because it's just where she is at that moment.
Yeah.
And in 2 years' time, she might have 10 million.
Probably.
Like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, there's not like she's not creating stuff or doing stuff. I want to get to 2.5 million followers and then that's it. If I said to you like, oh cool, you're going to get to, you're over 300 episodes, but like you're going to get to episode 350 or 400 and then that's it. You'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Even if I said to you at the beginning, get to 100 episodes and then you got to stop. You'd get to episode 99, you'd be like, no, I want to do more.
Yeah.
Why we don't have to put limit on things, and that doesn't just go with like stuff like this, creative stuff. That just goes with life in general, and also like thinking and consciousness. Like we don't have to put limit on things, because it just creates a smaller box, and you end up like narrowing your view on things.
It sounds like a very enlightened bit of mindset that you just put on me, and I think that is something that you're definitely about. But you said you didn't want to deep dive on this, but positive mindset. Let's deep dive in it, man. Let's go for it, bro. We got time to kill, so so let's go. What is a beyond positive mindset? So like,
this is something that I'm forever kind of learning. Like, and it's interesting because I literally was on a coaching course yesterday.
Yeah.
Put on by my mentor John Dashfield, and it was the whole conversation it was a day. It was 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. A whole day of talking about consciousness and beyond consciousness and awareness.
Wow.
And like super deep spiritual kind of chat that I'm so into. I'm so into it. I was locked in. I was just in the conversation.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things that I always used to say was like, create a positive mindset. Like the ebook that I wrote, that I put at the end of the year was like, practices to help you create and maintain a positive mindset for yourself. But what I've come to realize is that there's something beyond that. Like, as I said before, like, that's putting a limit on it. Why does a positive mindset or a negative mindset, why is that the limit of the way your mindset can be? Like, it doesn't have to be that. You're already setting a boundary. So it's like, what's beyond that? And for me, like, people always used to say, like, oh my God, you're so positive. Why are you always positive? Because I just like to put a positive spin on things. If something goes bad, I'll go, oh, it could be worse. That could have happened. Or like, oh, you know, at least that happened. Like, that's just how it is. And that's how I fell into this thing of positive mindset. But I'm realizing there's way beyond that. Like, there is, like, right now, this is where it's going to get deep. Okay, so
let's go.
So listener, take your cup of tea, get ready, cross your legs, listen in.
Yeah.
Like, right now, as I'm talking, right, there is an intelligence in our bodies, your bodies, Bill's body, that we don't understand. Like, scientists will try and tell you right now how my mind is telling my mouth to speak and a noise is coming out that you understand. But realistically, no one understands it. No one actually understands the physical, like, how that is happening. So there is something beyond what we understand already. The same way, you know, like, they'll say, like, a dog can sense fear. Like, animals can pick up on a higher vibration that we can't before we can. And you might say, oh yeah, but what about body language? There's like micro body language that we subconsciously pick up on. But it's like, before that, like, if I'm looking at a dog doesn't necessarily know I'm a human being. It just sees me as like another living creature, but it can sense something in me. So it can't be able to pick up my body language because it doesn't understand what my body is. But it barely understands its own body, probably, you know. So it's like, there's something beyond all of that we just don't understand. And that is the top level, like, infinite level of everything that we experience and that we exist in. Told you this was going to get.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think, like, feel free to rein me in, but, like, or pull me back in the right direction. So, for example, with dogs, there's many clear scientific documentations and people that own dogs that warn them when they're about to have a fit. Minutes before any sort of medical device could have. I don't think there is a device, otherwise that person would own it. But there are people that are epileptic that their dog comes up to them and does a specific thing, like puts their paw on them a lot or whatever, and they go, all right, I'm going to have a fit soon. Let me go and find a suitable place to have my fit. And that is an actual thing that exists. You know, I'm not pulling that out there. And there are also dogs that, you know, will alert other people or tend to their owner and stuff in a way to kind of try and soothe them before and during and after their fit as well. And a lot of people, when they ask me about religion, I like to think that there's a lot of things that we are not aware of and we don't understand yet. And I'm comfortable with my ignorance. I say this a lot to people. I like not knowing. And I think that there's always going to be a level way beyond when I'm not around, like, that we don't understand. But it is interesting trying to learn bits and understand bits as we go. So yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Do you know what? That's what I find really interesting, is being comfortable in the not knowing. Like, that's where we have to find comfort, because as human beings, like, we need an explanation for everything. Like, I need to know how my iPhone works. I need to know that when I press this thing, that this thing's going to happen. I need to know that when I, you know, here's another really good example, right? This has just completely just come to me because we were discussing it on this course yesterday. There's certain things that we do as human beings that we don't control. Our breathing, it just happens. I don't sit here thinking about breathing or trying to breathe. If I did, I'd probably mess it up.
Yeah, you'd be dead.
my heartbeat, digestion. Like, yes, I'll eat food and I know when I'm hungry and I'll eat it, but I don't sit there and think about how I'm going to digest it. These things just, they happen, and they were always going to happen, no matter what, until, you know, the end of our human existence or whatever. So it's like, there is something behind it all that is making all of this stuff work that we just don't get. And it's like, the dog thing was a great example, the one that you used, and the one we used yesterday was horses. I didn't know this until yesterday, but apparently horses, if you're feeling stressed and tense, they won't come near you. But if you're super calm, they'll come over to you, because they pick up some kind of, you know, and it's hard because you can't put words on it, because words can't describe it, because we don't understand it, but they pick up on some kind of vibrational existence within us or something. And it's like, we have no idea about that stuff, but another animal, another creature can pick up on it. Dogs have a greater sense of smell. That doesn't mean that, like, smell is not correct for us, or it's correct for them. It's just they have a greater sense of it. They have more of whatever it is that allows them to pick up a bigger sense of it. And it's just like, there's just so much out there that we will never understand. We'll never fully understand it.
Yeah.
Like scientists are trying to work out the Big Bang by building a massive tunnel under Switzerland and smashing atoms together. And it's like, they still can't figure it out because there's something happened that we will never ever know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll get closer, but I don't think we'll ever 100% know. But if there's a reasonable idea,
and then what's the stuff that's out there that's keeping all of this stuff going? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like it's mad.
There'll always be another question. There'll always be another question. I think it's like if we got to the edge of the universe as it exists right now, would want to know what's a bit further on.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, but there is something further on.
Yeah, exactly.
And there is, and it's just like, but we can't comprehend it. And that's why, as humans, we put things in labels, and we put things in boxes, and we put things in feelings and thoughts, and we you know like I was saying about you don't control your breathing, and your heartbeat just goes by itself, but for some reason we have the power to think about our thinking, and we do that a lot. Like, we don't have to, like, it does it itself. Like, our brain works by itself. Thoughts happen by themselves. It's only when we get caught up in those thoughts, and this is a lot of stuff that I coach, it's only when we get caught up in our thoughts and the feelings that come attached to a thought that we then start to create more thoughts. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you're fully present in a moment, like in something, be it playing football, be it, walking along the canal, like when you have those moments where there's zero thought, you don't even realize you're in it. It's only when you start to think, oh, I'm not really thinking. Oh, shit, now I'm thinking. Like, oh, now I'm thinking about the thinking. And now the thinking. And it's just like, that's how we go about our everyday lives. We just constantly put our thoughts in kind of like a washing machine. Like we throw the thoughts in, we keep throwing them in, we let them just spin round and round and round in our heads until it gets out of control, and then it breaks and we go, oh, I don't know what happened. Yeah.
So what techniques do you use to keep that washing machine empty then? Like, so.
I mean, so again, like, techniques is something that I've implemented certain practices in my life that I wouldn't say are techniques, but they work for me in terms of me being more present. So like those moments I was talking about where you have clarity, you're not thinking, you're just doing. So one of those things for me is just being in the gym working out. Like, I literally, when I'm working out, I'm just totally focused on whatever it is I'm doing and whatever it is I'm listening to. Reading is another one. Like, I'm reading the book. I'm not necessarily thinking about it, which I used to think about the book. I used to read. I used to go, oh, I can't remember what I just read. I'm gonna have to read that page again. And I read it again and go, yeah, I still can't remember what I just read. I'm thinking about the page too much. I'm gonna have to read it again. Whereas now I can just be in a book and read it and not worry about whether I'm taking it in or not. I just get through the book. And I used to be someone who religiously underline stuff. Sometimes I still do. If something pops out to me, especially, I'll underline it. But when you're trying to underline stuff in a book, you're using a different part of your brain. And I'm not, a scientist or a whateverist, but you're not taking in the information. You're looking for what you like rather than just letting the information come in. So yeah, anyway, reading, meditating, exercise, and there's a whole host of things. Like, you can be present in any moment. You can. It's not about being present. It's about living in the presence. Being present is an action that you're trying to do something. Living in the present is when you're just living and existing, and you're unaware of it until you become aware of it, which is then the problem because then you're thinking about being aware of it, and you see how it kind of all ties together.
So thinking less about thinking.
Like, we don't, like, realistically, I believe we don't have to think. Like, we will think. Thoughts are always going to generate. Like, we could sit here right now, take a deep breath, breathe back out, and a thought's going to pop in your head. A random thought. It could be about what you had for dinner yesterday. It could be about the last person who messaged you. It could be about how long we got left on the podcast. Like, whatever, it will come. Like, you can't deny that. But trying to then think about that thought that we just had instead of letting the next thought come in behind it, we sort of create like a traffic jam with thoughts instead of just like letting the traffic flow.
Yeah. I feel like by moving around and doing stuff with my body, it helps for me to get into a moment where I've got less in this washing machine going around. I think if I'm doing something physical, like you said, working out or walking, or if I'm just doing something simple with my hands, I don't know. Could be just. Have you got any like
specific like mindfulness practice? And I hate to call them like practices, but like you said, specific things that you notice.
I think
you're in those.
Yeah, I think things like walking. I think we said this a few times. So, and we spoke about it before the podcast. Walking, I didn't realize, like, people, I used to be like, I don't meditate, but I realized by going for a walk or I work out first thing in the morning. So I wake up quite early, work out, and then when I'm leaving the gym and I say bye to the person at the reception, I realize 3 hours have passed in my day and I've not said a word. And I've just not thought about anything apart from just lifting some weights, doing some breathing.
On that note, the maddest thing, it's 2:00 now. You and Bill are the first people I had a conversation with today.
Wow.
Literally the first people I've had a conversation with.
Okay.
So I've just been doing stuff, just going through, like, haven't, do you know what I mean? So I get what you mean when you say you get 3 hours into your day and it's like you haven't spoken to anyone. Yeah,
and it's like because I've not had to have any conversation or anything, I'm within myself. And then because I'm physically moving around, might be a walk. Sometimes I even walk to the gym, work out, and then walk back. I might listen to an audio book on the way there, but I might not. I might just walk along, and then you can kind of just get lost in your thoughts. And because I've done the gym routine so many times, done the walks so many times, I don't even have to think about, am I going to go left or right? Do I need to do this exercise? So sometimes I can find myself zoning out. Say, for example, waking up at 5:30 and then at 8:30, I'm like, where have those 3 hours gone? And those are the moments I've realized that I've actually got closer to those experiences. But I wasn't aware of it at the time.
Exactly.
So in short, going to the gym, going for a walk, that's when I get to those. When I get to those kind of moments. Other than that, I've got a very active mind.
I do too. And I'm not saying I'm some sort of, I know you use the word guru about social media. I'm not some sort of guru. We all have those moments, but it's about, if you can recognize that you're having those moments, you're one step ahead of the game, because the awareness of them is the first thing. So 3 things I always talk about is recognizing, accepting, and then growing. So the recognition is the first step of anything, be it battling. If you're an alcoholic, the first thing you have to do is recognize that you're an alcoholic. Okay. For an example, if you are having anxious thoughts or feelings, you have to recognize you're having those feelings to then be able to move along the stages. So once you're able to recognize something, so I the weeks I had before taking myself out of everything and just living, as I said, I was so caught up in my own head and had so much anxiety and nervousness and fear, but I recognized it. Once I recognized it, the next step was then accepting it. And that acceptance was me going, okay, I know I'm having these feelings. That's cool. It's fine. I'm a human being. I'm allowed to have emotions and feelings. I know I'm having them. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accept that they're there, and I'm just going to do more stuff in the kind of physical world and let the thoughts and the consciousness and everything just process itself. Because the brain figures itself out eventually. It always does. It's like a super smart computer. More smart than the new MacBooks. It's super smart.
Maybe not as pricey.
Well,
cheaper.
Is it?
I don't know. What's
the price
Depends
of spec. But yeah, so it's like the brain always processes itself. So if you can have that level of acceptance, and I mean totally like accept, surrender to everything that you're feeling, you will then get the moments of clarity where you'll grow. And that's 3 really simple things that I coach about, that I'll talk about, that I always try and bring up on the podcast, is like recognize, accept, and grow.
RAG. There you go. Give you a little methodology there.
Doesn't sound as cool.
It doesn't sound as cool, does it? Yeah, RAG.
Maybe I need to change the last one to something else.
RAM, there you go.
Oh, then I can battle up against Apple.
So when it comes to your coaching, what kind of people do you coach? What's your
So I am my ideal I hate the word client, but connection. Let's use connection. I prefer that word. I am my ideal coaching connection, because I'm a young guy, could be a girl, whatever, but I'm in my early 30s, you could be mid-20s, you could be, that sort of millennial kind of age range. A lot of overthinking, a lot of processing goes on through my phone, through my life, through the work that I do, through the people that I meet, through relationships or potential relationships, through family, so it's about me understanding those pressures that we have, that we go through, and being able to help someone, like, work with them on it. And again, I'm not perfect. I never will be, never have been, and that's just how it is. But what I'm trying to help people understand is this higher level of consciousness and this higher level of acceptance, and just getting into that process. Because once you can do it, and once you can get into it, and I'm telling you, I've been there. I've been in like the darkest of the darkest, like in my life, like the darkest. And even like 2 months ago, coming back from Japan, like I half of the problem was I was like, oh my God, I can't be in this state of mind. Not me. Like I'm the person who's trying to help people. And I was like creating a conflict within myself. And that's another thing we do, is we create conflict within ourselves. So, and I'm going a bit off topic here, but so like you have a feeling that you don't like. What do? What's your first thought?
I don't know. It depends on the feeling. I might think about it. Yeah. Probably. I'll have a good old think about it.
And what are you thinking about it?
I might try and think about a way to ignore it.
Yeah.
Or that really depends. I think usually if it's something I don't like, I try and get it out of my head.
So what are you doing by doing that?
I don't know. What am I doing by doing that?
You're thinking on top of it.
Ah, yes.
And that thinking on top of it is creating a conflict.
Right.
Because you're saying, I don't like this. I don't want it. I need to get rid of it. So straight away, you're throwing more thoughts and attachment and feeling at it. And you're just creating like a friction within yourself. And that friction builds and builds and builds. And because that friction's there, you're still having the feeling that you don't like. So you're going, I really don't like this feeling and I really need to get rid of it. And you create more of it. And it's, again, it goes into the hypothetical washing machine.
Okay.
It goes round and round and round. And the conflict is there. And you build this conflict up within yourself by attaching yourself to this bad feeling. And the same thing goes to a good feeling. We chase good things. We chase good feelings. And it's exactly the same at the other end. We will go, I really love this. How do I get more of it? How do I do more of it? Oh, I'm not doing more of it now. How can I do more of it? And you're creating a different kind of conflict. And then you throw that into the hypothetical washing machine and that goes round and round.
Okay. Is that why an impromptu night out is always the best?
Sometimes,
you just have like that random... go on.
No, I'm going to say, even when you just do something without expectation.
Yeah.
Like you go somewhere and you have no idea what the event's going to be like, the party's going to be like, or you meet someone, you have no idea what they're going to be like, and you're like, oh, that was actually pretty cool.
Some of my best days, some of my best experiences have just been, should we go out or should we do something? And then you go out and you just have, like you said, no expectation, and it just makes for a great time. Yeah. Thank you very much. So your ideal client is partner, should we say, is yourself?
Yeah, like someone in that kind of mold, feeling, you might be feeling a bit lost, you might be feeling a bit anxious, you might have questions that you kind of want to answer about yourself, you might have things that, you're trying to deal with and trying to process and you don't understand for yourself, all places I've been in my life. You might be someone creative who gets incredibly frustrated that you're not getting further. So it's about all of that, relinquishing all of that and going back to that thing of recognizing, accepting and growing. And it's about working through that and getting yourself into a place where you can begin to deal with it. And again, it's not about going, okay, I'm going to give you these 5 tips of things that you can do, and these 5 things, if you do them every day, you're going to be fantastic. It's not about that. It's about an understanding and helping people come to the realization of what that understanding is.
Okay.
And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and this must feel quite a contrast to the way you feel now. Must be a big contrast to the way that you felt during your darker times. Like, do you want to, like, how dark was it? Like,
so, I mean, this is like, I struggle with the timeline, to be honest, but it's like, I reckon 7 years ago, maybe 6. Let me work it out quickly. 6 to 7 years ago. But this was the realization moment was 6 to 7 years ago. It was a build up of stuff of what I say. It's like you go through your life, there's expectation on you, you go to school, you then go to college, you're then supposed to go to uni. I didn't go to uni, then get a job, and then you're supposed to move out and you're supposed to have a girlfriend. And there's all this kind of expectation within life. And it's like, I was going through this life and all the boxes were getting ticked apart from the uni thing. All the boxes were getting ticked, earning good money, had my own car, had a girlfriend, like all this stuff was getting ticked, but I was miserable. And I couldn't figure it out. And I didn't know it at the time. That was all the thing, is I didn't actually know it until I got to a point of recognizing it, essentially, and coming to a realization point. And this was when I was with my ex-girlfriend. And basically we were in her room in a parent's house. And we were arguing about something, as couples do. You don't get on, agree with everything. We were having some kind of debate. This is how deep it was. I don't even know what we were talking about. I really don't. I can't even remember. And she was sat at her dressing table, looking into the mirror. I was sat on the edge of her bed behind her, looking down at the floor, and we were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then she just turned around and she said, "Why aren't you saying anything?" I looked up at her and she was like, "Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you saying anything?" And that was the moment I realized that I was having the conversation in my own head. So she was saying stuff and I was answering it, but not saying the words. But I hadn't realized that that's what I was doing. I was just so engrossed in my own mind, in my thoughts, in everything, in the feeling of it. And I just looked at her and she kept saying, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you saying anything? Just like, she was like, I was obviously being rude in the context of the situation, right?
Hello.
I just looked at her and I just burst into tears. Like, just burst into tears. Straight away, her tone went like that. It changed. She came flying over to the bed and she was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Like, what's happened? And I was just like, just crying. I couldn't physically say anything. And my mind had just stopped. And I couldn't say anything. I was just crying. And she was like, what's up? And the only words I could get out was, I don't feel like myself. And that's all I could say. I said it 4 or 5 times. I don't feel like myself. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, I just don't feel like myself. And that was, the tears were part relief, part fear, part, all of the emotions at once. Because it was the first time that not only had I said it out loud to someone, I'd even said it to myself, like accepted it within myself or recognized it. And that from that moment, and around this time, again, not realizing it, I was having suicidal thoughts. I was hating everything that I was doing. Like, I didn't want to go out. I'd stay in. Even if I did go out, I'd be like almost be like an android, just like have the conversation. But deep down inside, I was just like, fuck that, I don't want to be here. Like, I just really don't want to. And then I'd go home and I'd just feel miserable. Like, even if I had like the best night ever and like Snapchat was lit and like, yeah, it was popping on Insta, I'd like go home and I'd just be miserable. And I just thought that was normal. I just thought it was a low, like off the back of the night or whatever. And I had all these feelings always going on. And basically it got to this moment with my ex. And that was the moment where it was like, okay, this is what is happening. This is where I'm at. So the process after that was I went to a therapist for a little bit, which I didn't quite get on with. Not like get on with in kind of like one-on-one kind of thing, but just, it didn't feel like therapy was the right thing for me. So I went on my own journey of like trying to strip back everything. So I went back literally to basics. Like, when you're playing football and it's like you're losing 2-0 and everyone's trying too hard and it's like, lads, we've got to go back to basics. It was like that. I literally back to the basics. Okay, cool. Who am I? And this is where this is where it gets a bit iffy. But back then this made sense, because who am I is, we can go onto this later, but like that's a whole different question. Like the image of self. But at the time it's like, okay, who am I? What do I represent? What do I like doing? What don't I like doing? Who do I like hanging out with? What are the things that make me tick? Like I didn't know the answer to these questions. I was so lost in my life. I could not answer those questions for myself. Looking at myself in the mirror, literally, like I couldn't answer them, and that was scary. But again, looking on the flip side of it, I was like, actually, this is an opportunity for me to learn this stuff for myself. So I went on a process of that following 3-4 years of just going on that journey. And out of the back of that came the podcast. Out of the back of that came so much other stuff where I am now. So it's like, to answer your question, it was pretty deep and pretty dark.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but you thanks for sharing that with us, man. And
pleasure.
And it's great to hear that you've managed to find your way out of that and also help others along the way. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are. One thing that it took me and I by no way means know everything, all right, I'm the first to say it, but I think little things that I've realized that work for me is that it's all right to have ups and downs, man. Like I think for a long time, especially growing up, it wasn't all right to be down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I know I'm oversimplifying these things, but it's not. So the fact that it's becoming something that is more discussed in the media now and is something that people are more happy with sharing. Do you think that's a really positive thing
100%
for this whole climate of conversation?
100%, because it's starting the conversation. Whether the conversation is going in the right direction is another thing.
Yeah.
Because what we tend to believe, again, and it's the way that we've been raised through our lives, just as human beings in general, not specifically our generation or whatever, is that external factors create our feelings, which isn't true. Our internal is what creates the external experience. So that the experience that we have is only created from ourselves. So an example would be, if you were to spill a cup of coffee on my leg right now, burning hot, I could be like, oh, fuck, man. Fuck, fuck are you doing? Like, fuck's sake, man, fucking blah, blah. Or I could be like, oh, just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can react differently to the exact same thing, exact same external thing, shows you it's not the external thing that creates the feeling. It's about the feeling that comes from inside that creates how the external experience becomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. So yeah, it's like it's you using what's inside to affect, you know, to outside, instead of being taking control. Basically, is what you're saying. Is taking control. You're taking some form of control over that situation.
Yeah, and it's only how you reflect on the inside, dependent on how you then see the external world. Yeah. So again, tying it back into that, allowing that stream of consciousness and that level of something that we just, I say consciousness, but we don't know what it is. It's just to kind of give it a word. Like, we don't understand that. So to allow that to flow through us more, we open up a different experience of what we're seeing and what we're living, because we're not caught in this world of like, if someone spills a coffee on me, I must react angrily. If someone hits me in the face, I must hit them back. It's like we start to react to things differently. We start to see things differently. Yeah. You realize that you might have spilled coffee in my leg. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And
don't pour a coffee in your friend's leg if you're listening. Don't try and like use as an example. Like, yeah, by the way, I heard this on a podcast. So
basically, I want to see how you react, innit? Like, so basically, you got really angry. So like, that means that basically you externally you are unhappy because of it. Don't do that.
Yeah, it won't go down very well. Yeah, sorry, you were.
But yeah, so the point being that we live our lives in that kind of situation. So again, using the example of my life, good job, girlfriend, all that was ticked. That stuff surely equals happiness. Yeah. That's what we're always taught. Yeah. Surely that stuff equals happiness. Good money.
Good times. Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag good times. My life's popping. Popping bottles in the club. That. Surely that equals happiness. No, it didn't. Why? Because it's not that external thing that matters. The thing that matters is the happiness, the clarity, the realization, all of that stuff that we experience as living. We can't create it. We can't make it happen. We can't be like, okay, I'm going to be happy. Like, happiness is a thing that exists within us and channels through us. We don't know how, we don't know why. That's how we experience living. And those things allow us to then live a life, to get the good job, to do the rest of it. The rest of it comes outside of that.
For real. So, suicidal thoughts, like what are they like? What are suicidal thoughts?
Oh man, standing on the train platform thinking like, oh, if the train comes, if I jumped in front of it, is anyone going to care?
Really? That's okay,
one. Or one. Driving down the street, if I crash my car, fuck myself up. Fuck it. Well, what's the worst? Like, can I do that? I'd probably be better off anyway if I was in a wheelchair. Wow. Or if I like them sort of things, and they're like it's a serious consideration that you're going through in your life.
So these aren't just glimpses of thoughts. These are like, in your mind, you're exploring these kind of...
Yeah, you're like thinking about the option of it. You're like, but, I will go to say, thankfully, I was never in a place where I would have taken the action. Yeah. It was an exploratory thought. And obviously people who do get themselves into those situations, most important thing you do is speak to someone. Yeah. Call someone, speak to someone, be it a friend, be it your mum, your dad, be it a helpline. Just call someone. Like, honestly, reach out to anyone. Because that's not where you should be, or no matter how you're feeling, there's a way out of it. So for me, they were the kind of things, and it was like, you just like, you don't realize you're doing it. Like I said, I didn't realize, I just thought, maybe that's what everyone thinks, standing on the edge of the platform, like, if I chuck myself in front of this train, is anyone going to care? Like, you do, and it sounds mad, like you just don't know any better, because that's how you experience life.
Wow. So that's deep.
Yeah, I know.
It's very deep. Yeah. So, would you say that kind of having an awareness of how that felt helps you to understand other people when you kind of, and I know you're not saying, you talk to me about if you have suicidal thoughts, you say very clearly, talk to a friend or something like that. But does it help you when you talk to other people that are in places that aren't, then they're not in there in a good way, to kind of have had that experience yourself?
Yeah, because
to relate to them.
I think in the sense of like, I understand where that moment is. Yeah. But also what I now understand is that is just a moment. That is just a thought. That's all it is. It's a thought, and that thought can change.
Okay.
And if you don't attach yourself onto that thought and that feeling and put it in the hypothetical washing machine, that the thought will change. And that's like the moment where everything changes. When you really, truly, fully understand and recognize that, that's where a lot changes. And the example we used on this coaching course yesterday is like, when you wake up from a dream, no matter how intense the dream is, like no matter how scary it is, how exciting it is, no matter what feeling you're feeling, the moment you wake up or like the few seconds after, all of those feelings fall away because you know that was just thoughts. It wasn't real. But we don't have that same acceptance and that same realization over the thoughts that we're having every day in life. We chase them. We try to like make something of them instead of just let that fall away. What's the next thought that's going to come along?
How do you use technology to one, help you on your own personal journey, and two, to help you kind of spread your word?
Technology, listening to podcasts in the gym.
Oh yes,
love that. That's like, that's my time.
Podcasts and gym. People are out there thinking I'm listening to 50 Cent. I'm learning, baby.
when I'm doing a little dance around the gym, that's because I'm liking what I'm listening to, and it's someone's voice.
What pods are you listening to?
So obviously Dreamer's Disease.
Great podcast.
So the ones that my go-to, I've got like 3 or 4 go-tos. Lewis Howes' School of Greatness, similar, much bigger than Dreamer's Disease, but similar kind of inspirational people, lots of very interesting conversations. Tim Ferriss, obviously is one of the big dogs, but just fascinating guy. I was never really into his podcast, funnily enough, until I read Tools of Titans. Have you read that?
I've not read that. I've read the 4-Hour Work Week, and I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss's podcast. I just don't. Tim, with all due respect, that intro music, is it still the electronic techno stuff?
Yeah, a lot of the Americans
that needs to go, bruv.
Yeah.
Tim, just let's get straight to you. We don't need the Tim Ferriss show. I don't need that, mate.
No,
straight to the pod. Let's get into it. I'm aware.
So I wasn't into him until I read Tools of Titans, which is like essentially the best bits of all the interviews from his best podcast interviews in a book. So it's sick. So I read that and I was like, okay, I need to. So I started listening to the podcast more. The Receipts. Receipts. I love the Receipts.
Great UK podcast.
Love the Receipts. Like, honestly, that is like my favorite like UK podcast. Like, so good. I love it. I love them girls as well. It's just amazing. Then I listened to like a couple of football ones. Golazzo, which is like the Italian football podcast, and then I've got some others that I kind of dip into, like Gary V, if I just need like a massive G-up motivation, like rocket up my ass, like Gary V's the one. What else is there? Joe Rogan, if I just want to like listen to a stoner conversation with someone quite funny or interesting. Although I will say the interview he did with Tyson Fury after the Wilder fight is one of the best interviews I've ever heard.
Okay, I need to listen to that. I've not listened to that episode.
The way Tyson Fury talks about his situation and his ups and downs in his life is incredible. That is a great interview. They're probably the main ones, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Didn't mention How to Kill an Hour, Billy.
I was listening to that this morning, to be fair. I was listening to the Jazzy Jess interview.
Oh yeah, that is, that was, he's got a lot of knowledge though, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's an authority in the game, so yeah. All right, so podcast, and you used to have a club night, right? Is that true? Yeah. So back in the day, into music and stuff like that. So do you still quite connected to music as well?
Yeah, I am again now, funnily enough. But yes, I used to work for. So basically, I used to work for One Extra, running their social media. Before that, me and my friend back in 2010, we started a blog called We Are SME, and we just used to blog cool music that we liked. And because we were so on it, we started to get a bit of a following. And what we didn't realize at the time was a lot of that following was coming from people within the industry who were trying to find out who the next artists were going to be. They were sort of checking our blog. Off the back of the blog, after the first 6 months or 9 months, we started doing club nights. So we started doing regular. We were doing like a live version of what the blog represented, basically. Pretty cool. We had like a live Twitter feed to people tweeting at the night, could see their tweets coming up. We were giving out T-shirts, like giving out mixtapes.
See, there's a social media guru bit coming out. See that a live tweet screen.
So someone can take that because it doesn't exist anymore. So we and then we kind of over time we developed or evolved the club night into. Originally it was called We Are SME Blog Parties, which is a bit of a mouthful, and it was like volume 1, volume 2, and it went up to like, I think got to like volume 30 nearly. It's like 30 events. But then we evolved it into a club night called Wanderlust, which was a bit more muso, a bit more similar kind of idea in terms of like the music. But what we really were interested in doing was bringing in a live guest, like an upcoming artist, and giving them a platform to do their thing. So yeah, anyway, off the back of the blog and stuff, I got the job at 1Extra, doing their social media. So I was very involved in music. Obviously, from there I was sitting on the playlist team, which is the team that decides what goes on the playlist. And then since I left 1Extra to go freelance, obviously to focus on like the podcast and the coaching and stuff, which was end of last August, or middle of August, whenever it was. I've disconnected myself almost disconnected from the music scene completely. Like I had to take myself out of it because I was, it's very amazing scene, but also a lot of frustrations when you're working in a place like that with a lot of kind of different pressures and things. I was just disconnected from it. I still listen to like, obviously, like, drill music and like keeping up to date with who's popping, like Hardy or whatever. Yeah. But
your gun leans on point. You know the moves.
I wouldn't say that. I do know the move. I wouldn't say it's on point though. I would not say it's on point.
It's a bit rusty, yeah?
Yeah.
Need some WD-40 around there.
It does. Cool. But I basically started listening to more jazz. I started listening to like more just other stuff just that I like listening to. Like, I didn't feel like I always had to be listening to like UK urban music to stay on top of it. I just started listening to more stuff that I enjoyed. Led Zeppelin or like whatever, like Jimi Hendrix, like so but now I'm starting to miss it a bit. I
think that's something that comes with age though, is just broadening your mind when it comes to music. I mean, and there is so much music out there at the moment that I think it's great to consume new stuff, but some of the best music is the stuff that's still relevant now. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's loads of music now that we love now, but there's loads of tunes that are popping in the club right now, but next month we'll be sick of them. But there are still songs in the club that you hear week in, week out, that DJ always plays, that are great. So by going back in time, you're kind of getting the best of the best, man. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're listening to some Marvin Gaye, that tune, still sounds good. That Sexual Healing, just a tune.
Man, I've got a playlist that me and a friend put together in Japan. Of just like all of the jazz tunes that we were hearing. Over like a 3-4 day period. Like in every bar that we seem to go in, they're playing jazz music. So every time there's a good tune, me and her would Shazam the song. And we created a playlist out of the tunes.
It's on Spotify.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is. There's secret.
I was just loading up my Spotify. Okay, cool. All right, cool.
Because it's
I'll put it in the show description.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, it's just tunes, man. It's just because it's a bit of a personal thing. It's just like the memories of not just us, but like the group of people we were with.
Fair enough.
So it's just it's just some amazing like Aretha Franklin on there, like just like bad tunes.
All right,
but new stuff.
Really upselling it and then just not sharing it with listeners.
Some things remain private, man.
Fair. Hey, listen, we're entitled to that, man. But yeah, so jazz and Japan. Tell me more about it, man. Was it? Why'd you go out there? Would you just talk? Let's go.
Have you been?
Not been to Japan. No.
Do you plan to?
Of course I do. Yeah, I think it'll be. I think Western society doesn't highlight how important it is to kind of go over and explore Japan.
Honestly,
you know what I mean? I feel like when I say we, I feel like society kind of was a bit like looked down upon going over there, but I think it's why would you not go there? Why would you not experience the world? But yeah, go on, you go.
It's an incredible place. Like, I wanted to go straight back.
Really?
Like, I actually went for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
3 weeks, but in my last day, I decided to stay for an extra week. So I ended up staying for 4 weeks. It was that good. And it was just like, there was a lot of elements to it in terms of like, obviously you're traveling, you're free, you don't have to worry about, I wasn't worrying about work and, money, and because you're away and all that sort of stuff. You're in kind of full on holiday mode. But it's just an amazing country. Like the people are beautiful. They're, what's the word I'm looking for? Not mannerisms. They're, like the things they do just day to day, culture, like everything they do is just amazing. Like it's a beautiful place. It's just incredible. It's peaceful as hell. Like it's just so slow paced and chilled, and it's just incredible. And there's so much history there on top of all that, and just places to discover that you just didn't even know existed in Japan. Like unbelievable. Like
book's flight to Japan.
Mate, honestly, it was so good. Like, and I met some incredible people along the way. Like honestly, I've never done the whole backpacking thing, like hostel thing, but the reason I went is my mate Adam, he's a freelance events manager, and he was working on an event in Tokyo for a week, and he basically messaged me saying, I got the Tokyo job, like what I'm thinking is like traveling around Japan for a few weeks afterwards. He's like, would you be up for it? Do you want to come with me? And I was like, yes. Like, he literally didn't even ask me twice. I was like, yes. Yeah. Like, when do we book the flights? And then his other friend Tamir came as well. So it's 3 of us. And I was a little bit apprehensive about the hostel situation and staying in hostels because you hear some bad stuff, like, you know. But
I mean, I've watched the films Hostels.
Yeah, so. I mean, I'll put it on paper. It wasn't like that.
Okay, cool. But everybody came back with all their body parts.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So I was a little bit apprehensive, just again, in my own thinking about it, rather than just going out there and doing it.
Yeah.
So in the end, I was like, do you know what? I'm chilled. We'll book what we got to book. Let's go and do it. And the hostels was the best thing we did because we met so many people in the hostels. We met more people in the hostels than we did when we were out and about. And we were people who are now friends, like had lunch with a couple of friends we met a couple of weeks ago, got another friend in Canada, like Dr. John, who's still traveling, who's from Australia, like just people that we met that I now chat to very often, which is incredible.
Got a network, got a worldwide network now, it's growing. Dreamer's disease, spreading worldwide. Yeah, that's
and also,
it.
if so, this was interesting as well. While we were out there, obviously I didn't want to stop the podcast, so we podcasted, if that's the right term, the whole trip.
Nice.
So if you go on to Dreamer's Disease, there's the travel diaries. It's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of our whole journey. So you can hear everything we got up to, what we did, the experience. And we were very honest and open and talking about the people we met, the places we went. So it's just quite a cool little thing for us to listen back to. But we had an amazing response to that.
So you just whipped out the mics as you were out?
I brought my mics with me, my little recorder, and just every now and then we'd sit down and record, like, all right, boys, what we've been up to.
I was talking to Bill about us doing stuff like that because obviously we're doing quite a bit of travelling with How to Kill an Hour, and a lot of the stuff we do, we recap afterwards. But we've got the ways and means and the tech to kind of record stuff in the field.
It was awesome, man. And it was proper, like, we were releasing it as we were going. So, like, people were hearing about what we got up to on Osaka, like, 2 days after we left Osaka. It wasn't like we were pre-recorded, but it was as live, and people were seeing it on our Instas or whatever. So it was all there for people to see and experience as one kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, it was wicked.
Oh, awesome, man. Awesome. And what was the food situation like out there? What kind of things did you...
Japanese food, man.
Yeah.
It's noodles, it's sushi, dumplings, okonomiyaki, which is like their... it's like a savoury pancake, but they put like... It sounds disgusting when you describe it, and it doesn't look particularly appealing, but it's the most incredible thing I've ever eaten. It's like it's a massive savoury pancake, and they put like veg in it, and they might put chicken or whatever you want to have in it, and you basically... They make it on a massive hot plate. They chef it up on there. They serve it to you on the hot plate if you're sat at the counter, and you get like a little mini tiny spatula to cut it out with, and then just like shovel it in your mouth, or you can cut it with the spatula and use chopsticks. That was amazing.
What's it called?
Okonomiyaki. I haven't explored the London options yet, but I'll report back when I do.
Yeah, but you know it's not going to taste as good.
It's not going to be the same, of course not. But it's still like otherwise I have to try and make it myself, which I'm not really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, fair enough. So did you like bring back stuff from Japan? What did you bring back with you, man? Apart from tales of delicious food.
What, physical stuff or like...
But let's go for both, man. Like,
physical. So I've got a thing wherever I go to a new country, new place, I always buy a magnet.
Fridge magnet.
Fair enough. So I've got a magnet.
Okay.
A couple magnets actually, because we travelled about. So I got 3 or 4 magnets. What else? I think physically that's literally the only stuff I brought back. Oh, football shirts. That's another thing I do, is I buy football shirts when I go to places.
Yeah.
It's one of my other things, passions. But yeah, just in terms of coming back from Japan, like I said, when I got back from Japan, my head was a mess because all of a sudden I'd totally opened up my view on everything. You know, the consciousness had like completely open. I thought I had it all like figured out, like this is what I'm going to be doing. Got the podcast, got the freelance work, got the coaching, like this is it. I got back and I was just like, oh damn, there's way more to life than this stuff. Like way more to life than this stuff. Like, and I'm stressing about this stuff. Like, what do I want to experience life? How do I want to experience life? And all these questions. So mentally, it changed a lot for me in a good way. Initially, it was in a bad way because I was so in my head about it, but in such a good way because it's just made me more aware of like that, again, going back to that consciousness and that awareness that we just can't understand it. It just opened me up way more in that sense, which is great. And also the experiences just changed everything, you know, and the people you meet, like it's mad.
What was it like coming back to the UK? Did you get a little bit? You must have had some holiday blues.
Yeah, massively, totally. Like the first week was really hard. 10 days probably even was really hard. Like trying to get motivated to do stuff again.
Yeah,
it was so hard. I was just like, I just want to take my backpack and go somewhere again.
Yeah,
that's what I kept thinking.
I've actually done that before. I got back from E3 last year and then I went straight to Prague. It was a little bit of work, but it felt like a holiday needed after. E3 was work as well, but
I'd booked the flight within 2 weeks of being back home.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to book it.
I can relate to that. It's like taking the Monday off after a weekend away. It's like coming back. Yeah, I don't want to go into work tomorrow. Yeah.
So I mean, but on the whole, like incredible, man. Just like, just very blessed. I'm trying to now work out next year. How can I go and travel a bit more? I
was going to say, what's next for you? Because the podcast, as you've described, can go with you wherever you are. So
which was part of the greatness, but also part of the problem was like, I now had this option of taking the podcast on the road and traveling the experience as I did it. And I was like, damn, can I do that? That's a possibility. Shit, this changes everything.
Yeah, yeah. It does.
All of a sudden, it's not like, okay, I need to book a guest. It's like, I can take a backpack, I can hit the road, and I can have a conversation with someone that I meet along the way.
Exactly.
And people are going to be into it.
Exactly.
I was like, damn, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So me, like the next 6 months, I'm very focused on, up until the end of the year, everything podcast, the freelance contract that I've just got, coaching, the other podcast that I've got, football podcast. And then from January, I'm going to explore options in terms of like the travel side of things. What, where can I balance the work and travel thing? And looking more kind of at that. So that's it, man.
Cool. And before we let you get out of here, let's talk about the Retro Football Shirt podcast, man. Let's go.
Oh, man.
So you're into football shirts. What an interesting niche. But so tell us about the pod, man.
So as with everything, right, by doing this, like sometimes this can feel like proper work and proper, so you just sit there sometimes, you think, oh man, what is the point? But the thing is, like, the podcast was always my release from those feelings within work. And once the podcast got to that point where it's like, actually, I want to uphold a standard. And this was part of the issue I was having recently and why I had to sit away from everything. It was like, it started to feel like work. And the passion of just sitting down and having a fun conversation was kind of dwindling away slowly. So while I was still working at One Extra, me and my friend Uche, mutual friend of ours, we would, for whatever reason, we would just talk about football shirts across the desk to each other. I don't know why. I think because last summer I was wearing football shirts quite a lot. So we just always end up having conversations. And someone in the office just turned around and said, do you know what? If you two recorded these conversations and turned it into a podcast, it'd be really funny. Listen. And me being me, I was like, ding.
Yeah.
Okay. Like literally the next day I'd made a logo, come up with a name, a concept for the podcast. I said, Uch, I was like, we can do this. This is going to be so good. Like, it's just going to be so much fun just sitting around talking about football shirts. Like, everyone loves football shirts. Like, but if you're into football, you love a football shirt. There's a big like audience for it. People will like enjoy the conversations. So let's just record one and see how it is. And we went from there, and we've kind of like built up. I think we're on like episode 20 something at the minute, and we're working with Classic Football Shirts, which is like the biggest football shirt website. Kind of, I'd like to say in the world, probably. I'm not actually sure, but definitely in the UK and probably in Europe, and most probably in the world, to be honest. They're like our kind of sponsors. Doug, who runs Classic Football Shirts, is like a guest on the podcast as Kitman Doug, so he chimes in when we want like expert advice on stuff, because we really don't know what we're talking about. Like our tagline is like crap facts and rubbish stats, because we mess stuff up. We don't actually know what we're talking about. We're just fans.
Yeah.
It's just like, if someone came here right now and bought the most high-tech camera in the world and put it there and said to you, like, what do you think of this? You're going to know some stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to know all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to know the history of the company.
Nah.
That's kind of how we are with the football shirts.
But I will push all of the buttons on that camera.
Yeah. Of course.
Because that's what you got to do.
Exactly. So it's like, it's a similar thing of like,
100%.
you're a fan.
Yeah.
That's why you talk about, we're a fan of football shirts.
Yeah.
That's what we're not experts. But that's what makes it funny, because like, we get stuff wrong. We got a funny email from a listener in Madrid, because I used to always call out Real Madrid for like, their king buying their training ground and basically putting money into the club, and the guy just called me out saying that's completely wrong, this is the actual facts of what it was, and just sent this really long email, and it was really funny. So stuff like that's quite cool, because we mess stuff up, we get it wrong.
A fact check once in a while. That's all good.
Get fact checked.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, man, it's a great listen. Like it's Very different to dreamer's disease.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just like, you can just tell you guys are having a laugh.
But also,
that's
it's like,
thing.
Not all of my conversations I have in life are about consciousness and about.
No, they all are. If you ever meet Alex, it's all he talks about. It's all. Check.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd probably spend more time talking about football. It's just this is a way of living for me in terms of dreamer's disease. Whereas like the football thing is like I mean, they're both a passion, but it's like it's a different kind of passion.
Yeah. Who do you support?
Arsenal.
Friend of the show. It's Man United supporter in here, but we're
can't have that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Where in Manchester are you from, Billy? Sorry, this is my football side coming out.
I think you know the answer to that, guys.
That's my football side coming out. Sorry, that's what I'm like on the pod. Like, cuss everyone.
Yeah, still waiting for that answer, Bill. Greater Manchester, is it? No? Okay. No. Bolton. Right, but yeah, where can we find these podcasts? Where can we find Dreamer's Disease?
On all the apps, basically. Apart from Acast, weirdly, they took it down. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know.
Anyway, so apart from Acast, if you just search Dreamer's Disease on iTunes, on Spotify, on Castbox, on all the kind of things. Same Retro Football Shirt podcast. Yeah. Search the name Retro Football Shirt podcast and it'll come up on all platforms. In terms of me, I am Alex Manzi across all socials, and that's where you'll find all the other stuff, I suppose. Nice. Including the ebook, which is a very interesting read. If I rewrote it, it'd be completely different, but it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just I'm in a different space now in terms of my understanding. But a lot of people have like hundreds of people, shall we say, have downloaded the ebook and fed back that they found it really helpful. So if you want to get the ebook, it's thedreamersdisease.co.uk/ebook. And it's called Daily Positive Practices to help you build and maintain a positive mindset. Lovely. It's a good read. And it's filled with my experience and my story and practices that you can do for yourself. So I'm sure you'll be updating that shortly. Yeah. Look forward to the update. Hopefully something else coming. Yeah, man. Yeah, it'd be great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the show. Thanks for killing some time with us, man. Don't forget, howtokillanhour.com/podcast is the link you need to go to if you want to listen to us via any device. So say you're listening to this on your phone and you just want to listen to it on your computer, howtokillanhour.com/podcast or podcasts, because sometimes I say cast and sometimes I say podcast. I don't know. Sometimes it's a plural, sometimes it isn't. But yeah, whatever. Go to either of those links and you can get your hands on the pod. Thank you for killing some time with us. I've been Marcus Bronzy. You have been Alex Manzi. Yeah. Cheers. Bless.